All right, this is a special occasion right now. We got two guys who are headed to Los Angeles on Sunday to cover the NFL draft. Of course, for the Ringer, a couple familiar faces for me and probably for you at home, Todd McShay and Steve Muench.
So, Muench, how funny is it listening to Sousa right now? Like
so professional.
You know what I mean? Like he's got the voice going. It brings me back to college, like, you know, sitting in one of the apartments or when Sousa and I would be up doing the taping stuff and him calling everything.
This journey for Todd McShay, folks, if you want to know, this dude has scouting in his bones. They stuck us in a film room the size of a closet to break down Muench's film. Todd and I were hurt, so we had to look at Muench playing tackle, and guard, which he did actually an admirable job. But that's where it started. And I want to, by the way, you guys are going to Rosillo's on Saturday for the draft?
Yeah, for the 7th round of the draft. We're gonna break into the draft, break into his house, eat his food, drink his drinks, and try to get him to run a 40 is how I'm pitching the whole thing.
There's no way. There's no way he's doing it.
I got a text, by the way, before we get into all this. I got a text yesterday.
Oh boy,
from our hijacking your show.
Yeah, I mean, of course I am. From Frank Leonard, who just retired from coaching major college coaching. He's going to Division III. Frank Leonard was a coach of ours.
Oh, he's doing Division III.
Yeah, he is.
Of course he is.
He already's given me a tight end for next year's class. But he was thanking us because we did a thing, Sousa, on our show the other day. I didn't realize Muench saw that Frank Leonard had retired. And so we were kind of talking about Frank. And where you and I used to break down tape, he had that office in the back room. He would come in like, McShay, Elio, you know, like the whole voice. But he was thanking us for doing it. And then his last line was, and yes, he did miss that block versus URI. Coaches never forget.
Quick Frank Leonard story. He was our running back coach, and our buddy Elio Imbernone, Mr. Ice for Barstool, was a fullback. And Elio wasn't really going to class, especially military science, which we all took advantage of classes like that. Great opportunity to learn from Captain Fortenberry.
Oh, my gosh.
Elio's behind in his curriculum, and, you know, Leonard's got to call this Fortenberry guy. So Elio says to Frank Leonard's like, what's his name? Who I'm calling? This teacher? And he goes, his name's Private Fortenberry. So the Fortenberry answers the phone, and he goes, yes, Private Fortenberry? And quickly, you can tell Fortenberry corrects him, and he goes, yes, Captain Fortenberry. No disrespect, sir. No disrespect.
But that was Elio, man.
Yeah, that was Elio.
The fullback who wound up taking his job, Matt Snyder, went to the NFL and played, and Elio was good enough to play at that level, but he had different things in mind.
Well, that's some of the stuff you guys are up against this time of year. You learn stuff about these guys who you fall in love with. And Todd, I've heard you say it often in the past and now in the present. It can be disappointing when a guy who you love, you have a first-round grade on, and with all the due diligence you do, you find out that this guy maybe isn't all he was cracked up to be. Has that happened? And I don't want any names. Has that happened for you this year at all?
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys like – and I think when we say like he's got some character issues who could fall in the draft, like the thing I try to make sure that we do is represent the fact that like that doesn't make him a bad guy. A lot of times it comes from the circumstances, like, and it's not with everyone, but there are a lot of guys, and just like when we went to Richmond, which is like a really nice, expensive private school, but there are guys from different, from the South, from the West, from the North, from, different social economic backgrounds. And so you try to dig in, and that's what these teams do. Unfortunately, what happens is you figure out, okay, the dad's got a problem. The mom's dealing with her issues. The uncle that we raised by a grandparent, or the uncle's got his hands out, or there's an agent involved. So typically with all of these players, there's an external force that's creating it. And like, anyone who studies psychology, like you're not born with almost all of these issues. It's the environment that you're in. And so when you have these conversations with scouts and general managers, it's about like, how, if we were to bring him in, how can we help him? How can we get the best out of him and make him into the man that we know he can be? But we also have to place a value on each pick. And so there's a high value on a top 10 pick. And we can't afford to miss on that pick. So while we love his talent, maybe we take the player with a little bit lesser talent because there's a little bit more of a gamble here. So those are the conversations that are actually going on, that I'm having. The problem is what then comes out of some of these conversations with some other people in the media is, he's got baggage, some character stuff, he's falling. And it's not a true representation because everyone in the league, it's like Steve and I know you're the same mentality. We want all these guys to succeed. It's where do I value that in terms of where I can use a draft pick on him? And then if we do bring him in, how can we support him to make sure that he's the best version of himself?
Yeah, and that brings me to my first question, and we'll kind of start broad. And Todd, we'll start with you, and Muench, you can jump in. Cam Ward, why is he separated himself, or how has he separated himself from all the quarterback prospects in this draft? Not a quarterback-heavy draft, but this is a guy from South Texas, right? A 0-star prospect that started off at Incarnate Word that is now hands down the number one pick in this draft going in to the draft on Thursday. How has he established himself there?
It starts with traits, right? And those traits weren't developed, and guys develop at different points in their lives. Like, look at Steph Curry, right? Like Steph Curry was like an afterthought and didn't have the size and all the things he didn't have. Then he started to grow a little bit, and he started to work, and he worked, and he grinded. And I think you see the result on Saturdays so far. The changing of arm angles, the ability to extend plays, the big time throws down the field, and those are the jumping off points. But like for any young fan or aspiring player out there that's listening or watching, this guy is like the poster child for the grind. He has worked his ass off, Pete. He has, Incarnate Word, like you said, 0-star, gets another opportunity at Washington State, puts his name into the NFL draft, and you're either getting a first round, second round, or go back to school grade from the advisory committee. He gets a go back to school grade, calls Mario Cristobal and says, you know what? Maybe I do want to come to South Florida. Kept grinding and holds his teammates accountable. Like you talk to people there. The difference is the talent, okay? But then I think as Tennessee got into this process, they love the talent. It may not be Caleb Williams. It may not be Jaden Daniels. It may not be Drake May, but it's not that far off. But the reason why it went from, we're shopping this first pick and there's a generational talent at other positions to we're not even going out to Shedeur Sanders' private workout because we're picking no trade offers. He's our guy, is because they got to know him and they got to talk to his teammates and the people around the campus. And they figured out, this is the guy that can actually change a franchise.
So, and Mitch, how do rumors get out? Because I had heard, obviously unsubstantiated, that his teammates didn't love him. How do roommates like that escape his camp and his circle or a school?
You always consider the source, right? I mean, where is this coming from? Does someone have an axe to grind? I always think about the Jaden Daniels situation at Arizona State. I mean, I think a lot of people have seen that video where he's left Arizona State to go to LSU, and some of his teammates are surrounding his locker and clearing it out and talking about how he's out of here. And some people feel burnt. There's, it's a human relationships are difficult like that. And consider what the source is. Our understanding is that this kid is an unbelievable teammate, and you do see it. Does it add up on tape? He's an ascending player. There's no question about it. And that speaks to his work ethic, because when I watched him at Washington State, I was like, this kid's so much fun to watch, but I'm not sure how well his game translates to the NFL. And then you start seeing him at Miami, and he's still making some of the same mistakes, but he's starting to figure things out. And if you get him to start figuring things out and continue on that path, he's going to be great in the NFL. But I mean, to get back to your question, you got to consider where things are coming from. You can't.
Think there were some guys that we played with at Richmond that were total pains in the ass.
Right.
When you look back on it, you're like, I kind of respect them now.
Yeah.
I don't like them very much, but my goodness, I now I've grown up, I've matured a little bit. I respect the hell out of them.
Everyone's got their own agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One guy who I know everyone respects, right? Travis Hunter, and covering the Big 12 a lot this year, like I do. Just a huge piece of real estate for the conference. And, it looks like he'll be a huge piece of real estate for Cleveland. McShay, I love to go back to when you're with your grandfather Marshall at the Rose Bowl in 1997 watching Charles Woodson, right? Against Washington State. The lazy comparison for me, right, because I can be lazy, and I don't do this for a living, is Charles Woodson. But who is a prospect you can compare Travis Hunter to? I mean, we've never really seen this before because of the amount of snaps that he played on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and I went back and looked, and I need to brush up on this because we did this back in, I think November, Muench, was it? When we did, Muench took one side of the ball, I took the other, we did a full evaluation, right? And at that point, I went back and looked because I was curious, right? Because everyone's like, yeah, Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson, Deion Sanders, his coach.
Yeah.
Between all of them, well, between Champ and Charles, they had fewer than 6 or 7 combined catches in their career in the NFL. So everyone's like, he's the next two-way player. No. And Prime, I think he had fewer than 60 or right around 60 catches. And obviously there was the return game element as well. But he had a long career in the NFL. And that number of catches represents 5-6 catches a year, okay, on average. So when people start talking about he's just like this guy, my answer is nah, he's not like anyone. We've literally never seen what Travis Hunter is about to try to do. And the same thing with Shohei Ohtani. And this was mentioned. Mench came up with this. It's a brilliant comparison. Everyone's nah, yeah, I get it, Babe Ruth, but in modern
understood that. I was like, there's no way this guy will, play both ways.
Yeah, but the part that concerns me and the load management, if you want to bring it to the NBA, the load management aspect of this is not stamina, okay? The part that concerns me a little bit is he's got a kind of a linear frame, as we like to call it, kind of lean. Has had some nicks, shoulder and I worry about all right, now against grown men playing corner full time, how does that hold up? But anyone who's been to an NFL game, the TV timeouts, we're watching tape and it's 80 to 96 plays a game on both sides of the ball. He played over 1,000 snaps on average the last 2 years. Okay. So it's not a stamina thing. The game's slower, the timeouts, the tempo's not as fast. He's got it stamina-wise. It's how do we get him on the field right away and make a huge impact? And I think that's going to be a wide receiver. But we'd rather him in the cornerback room where communication is at the utmost importance, and there's 10 other guys that they've got to all jive together. So it'll be fascinating to see whether it's the Giants at 3 or if he falls to New England. I don't think he's getting to 3 or 4, but if he doesn't go to if he goes to Cleveland, it's wide receiver right away, and they'll figure out how to utilize him at the cornerback position. If you were to follow those other teams, maybe you could see, but I think New England would be the same. At the end of the day, he's going to play both sides. I think wide receiver will be the bigger impact early. Mench, I don't you could take it from here, but I do think it would be criminal to not utilize him on both sides of the ball in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you have
Let's
to.
see that beard again.
Yeah. There he is.
I mean, you have to. That's his value, right? You have to play him on both sides. I'm fascinated, and I know this is down the road, but this is how I think. I want to see that second contract negotiation because the rookie contract, there's only so much you can do. But if this plays out the way we think it's going to play out, and he's going to play all these snaps on offense and defense, that is going to be a contract like we have never seen in the NFL for a non-quarterback. I can't wait to see how that gets ironed out because how do you pay a player that's playing 2 different positions? That's going to be interesting to see down the road.
Yeah, and
Folks, you hear Steve Mench? That's a guy who not only did he and Bill Belichick both go to Andover High, they have other stuff in common as well. It's a brilliant football minds. All right, let's go to Shador. Todd, you had this before anybody else. Shador and the possibility of New York starting to heat up down the stretch. He's there today, or they're out in Boulder today, right? New York Giants brass. The reality of him going that high to 3, how realistic is that?
Here's the information I'm getting. It's it's very common at this point in time. Not everyone is going to share the same opinion. All three of us could go watch the same 200 plays on a player and have three varying opinions on them, right? So where they are in the process now with all of these quarterbacks, but especially Shedeur, is my understanding is there's some who are banging the table harder for Shedeur, while others have a few more questions. Okay. And we can get into the lack of a great arm, playing in that division, playing in that weather, all those things. But at the end of the day, they recognize how important this decision is. I'm getting the strong sense that it will still be, let's say, as we assume, it's going to be Cam Ward 1 to Tennessee, Travis Hunter 2 to Cleveland. I still think it's going to be Abdul Carter 3 to the Giants. What this work is being done, and if you recognize, everyone's talking about Shedeur. Turn on Get Up, Sports Center, Good Morning Football, whatever it is you're watching in the mornings with the NFL. Everyone's talking about Shedeur, right? But do you know they're having private workouts in this final 2-week span with Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck from Louisville, Jalen Milroe, and Shedeur Sanders. Okay, so my understanding from talking to people in the league is this is more about getting everyone on board. Where do we stand? Let's find a collective, kind of a consensus, or let's figure out where we are on how important or how much do we love them? Do we love them enough to package that 33rd pick with a third-round pick and maybe a second-round pick next year to go up to pick 15, where Atlanta only has 5 draft picks in this entire class? Or are we willing to wait to see, if he gets past 9, do we want to wait longer? Or do we think we have to move all the way up to 8 to do it? So I think they're trying to manage and figure out, is there that big of a gap between, let's say, Shedeur and Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck and Jalen Milroe? And maybe if it's not as big a gap, maybe we'll sit back and wait and see if one of those guys, if we've narrowed it down, we can live with either of these two guys. Maybe they let Shedeur go 21 to Pittsburgh if that's where he winds up falling, and they move in with Minnesota, who only has 4 picks in this draft at 24, and they take one of those other guys. So I think that's the process they're going through now. I can't say with certainty that it is, but that's kind of the information that's coming out right now.
Yeah, and if folks don't want to get left out as this situation continues to evolve, you subscribe to the McShay Report. That is awesome stuff. To take the air out of the balloon just a little bit, but that's reality, right? Like people, Shedeur, they're going to Boulder. He's going 3. Settle.
And maybe he does, Pete.
Yeah.
Maybe he could.
He could go 3.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, if you're in love with the quarterback, take him. But it doesn't make sense in terms of the grade.
And we can't emphasize this enough. When it comes to decisions like this, when your owner cares about what the New York Post is writing every day, what's going on in the Times, what's on the front page, and it's been Aaron Rodgers the last couple of years, and sick and tired of being second fiddle in that market. You never know. Pete, we worked together for a while.
Yeah.
The stories, the stories that we would get about, whether it was Al Davis or another owner, you set your board, you got all these players lined up, the scouts are all on board, the college director, the GM, they've made a consensus, they feel great. And then Al Davis comes in his jogging suit, swish, 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 down the hall. And it's like, no, I like that guy. He ran a 4.29. Let's take him. And it's like, what did I spend 15 months about? You know what I mean? So you never know at this point in the process what is driving that final decision when it comes to a top 5 pick, and especially at the quarterback position.
You want to talk about on-the-job training, when we all work for Hort. I was in the office when he's talking to Michael Lombardi, and of course that stuff's off the record, but I'm like, wow, this is so interesting. I said to Nick Narstedt, these notes about Al Davis, you could smell his cologne from a mile away, and there's no locks on the doors in the facility. And Horton's like, Pete, these are people's lives. Take that down, All right, a couple more before I let you guys out of here, because I know you're busy. 2 worlds colliding for me: the Big 12, Ted McMillan, Arizona, and the Dallas Cowboys. That's a marriage made in heaven for the hype train here in Dallas, and as far as the Cowboys are concerned. Is there a possibility? I love that, by the way, but the Cowboys have so many needs. Is there a possibility that they move around in the first round?
Muench, you take this one.
Yeah, I mean, of course there is. This was going to be interesting because we have to tie the quarterback market into this, depending on how far Shador falls, what happens at 9 with the Saints, who's going to want to trade up and get a quarterback. Yeah, they could start moving around in that sense and pick up more picks. If they do stick at 12, that makes sense. Even though I think Todd and I both have Matthew Golden, the Texas receiver, ahead of Tet, he's probably a better fit for Dallas because when you're pairing him with CeeDee Lamb, you get that bigger body receiver. That makes some sense. But yeah, of course they can move around. The only issue I will say with all of this, and we've talked about this for a while now, is there is a drop after the Abdul Carter, the Travis Hunter, the Mason Grahams, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. After those guys, there's a little bit of a drop, and there's not much difference between a lot of different players. So getting someone to trade up, it's great. I mean, I think New England at 4 would love someone to come up and get someone so they can get more picks. But you have to find the dance partner. That's always the case.
I keep hearing from people in the league, and sometimes it's 9. Most of the time it's like 10 or 11. The difference between the player you're going to get at 11 and the player at 35 is not that big of a gap. Okay. And you hear that and it's like, yeah, I get it. But like, I like this. But at the end of the day, like I was just going through my rankings again last night and I'm like, you know what? There kind of isn't, yes, obviously I'm ranking that, but I got a bunch of 9, like we're on 100 scale, draft grades. Like I've got just a couple 95s, a couple 3 94s or 94s and 93s. And that's like you just mentioned, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Ashton Ginty, running back from Boise State, Tyler Warren, the tight end, Mason Graham from Michigan. That's like the 5. Then Jalen Walker would be in right behind them. Cam Ward. Okay. So now we're down to like seven players. Then there's a few more that you're like, yeah, these guys are different than the rest. But then you get to like 11 or 12, whatever it is. And I've got a bunch of 91s, 90s, and 89 grades, like a bunch. And down to about 35, 37. Okay. So to answer, and it's running parallel with what Muench just said. I outside of the quarterbacks, or maybe an edge rusher, I don't see where our team's going to be like, yeah, I want to move up and give away because there's a bunch of starters I can get in rounds 2 and rounds 3 this year. But Dallas specifically, I do like that fit. I have problems with Tet McMillan when you start to dig in, like the practice habits, the attention to detail, the not finishing routes. I see the physical traits with in terms of like being a big X, having that kind of basket. For him, it's volleyball. For Drake London, it was basketball. I see the comparisons physically in the acrobatic catches and a little bit of the run after catch. I don't see the same dog in those two guys. And that's the kind of the concern. But when he was with Jed Fish, and as one scout said to me the other day, and Jed had his foot on his throat, he was great.
Yeah.
But then it was a new program, new quarterback. Accountability wasn't the same. So what are you going to get when you like? Remember, Schottenheimer gave us this advice like 100 years ago. Seuss, the hardest part about scouting. Remember, we were just pups, and I remember him saying this. The hardest part about scouting is figuring out when a human being gets more money, fame, and free time than he's ever had before. So those are all the factors that kind of have to go into it.
This is great stuff. All right, Ashton Ginty, undersized guy. Again, the comparison that I like to make, I look at him, I see LaDainian Tomlinson or Marshall Faulk. What is this guy in the NFL? Again, I just mentioned 2 undersized backs, so I'm hitting him with a broad stroke there. But where does this guy in the NFL fit?
He's undersized, but he's thick, man. I mean, he's built low to the ground. He's well built. I get that he's short. And he doesn't have, I mean, he's not a 220-pound guy, but when you look at his build, he's a thick guy who can break a lot of tackles. And I think, I mean, it's been a common comp. I love your comps. I mean, I remember when we were at Richmond staying up late to watch Marshall Faulk was at San Diego State.
Yes.
Every night, every Saturday night was a show. I mean, we'd get done with our game and be throwing that on at night because he was just so good. But I mean, the Alvin Kamara comp I think is really good too because
Tom Luganville or
yes,
Al Luganville coaching. Yeah. Little did we know at the time.
Yeah.
So I mean, where he fits is he's day one. He's the alpha in the running back room. He's your He's your bell cow. I mean, he's the guy that right away. He's the guy. I mean, his film is outrageous with how many tackles he breaks, how quick he is, how decisive he is. The vision is so underrated. And then, you talk about he didn't catch as many balls last year, but he went 2 years ago. I mean, he's without a doubt going to make an impact as a receiver out of the backfield.
Just a couple quick additions to that.
Yeah.
I was talking to a GM the other day, and I was like, listen, you got Omari and Hampton. You got Travion Henderson. You've got Quinshawn Judkins, Cam Scatterbo, Caleb Johnson from Iowa. There are so many backs. This is the most talented running back class I can remember ever evaluating. How big is the gap, though? Is it worth using a top 6, top 7 pick? And when you know you can get a really good guy later, he's like, it's that big. I was like, okay. I was creating I was like, all right. And you kind of just shut me down. Where you go with that? So I was trying. It was a leading question. But then we're getting ready for our live stream, and I'll selfishly promote our show. We're live streaming during the first round, the second round, and from Russillo's house on Saturday throughout the draft. So come join us on the McShay Show. But we're creating these one pages, trying to give people a feel for who these guys are. And usually it's good vision, good this, and needs to work on this. For Ginty, I was like, I want to express the difference with him. I wrote in there, it jogged my memory, LaDainian Tomlinson combination of vision, contact balance, and I forget, it was elusiveness or whatever it was, change of direction. And then the second one was Alvin Kamara type impact in the passing game. And the third one was, and this is the part that I don't think anyone has been talking about it, or people haven't talked about enough, Herschel Walker-like commitment.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. That's a nice
you hear all these horror stories about NIL money and people with their hands out and buying Ferraris and all this stuff, right? Apparently he's like a 5-year NFL veteran already. He's like the cryo and the nutrition, the dedication to his body. This guy is built for the NFL, and he's the type of worker and committed player that's it's hard to see him failing unless everything around him really goes poorly.
Dude, just to bring some context, being out on the road calling games this year, it is scary, the NIL stuff. You get a 17-year-old at Arizona State walking out to a Maybach in the park. Not a bad kid, but just it's so magnificent. Everything.
I want you to think about we're 19 years old, living in those university apartments, right?
Yeah.
Scratching to get hey, I get $4. I get $9 left in my account. All right, let's pool it together. Let's get some Papa John's tonight, right?
Yeah.
Spider card.
If I handed you $1.5 million or 800,000 with our mindsets back then, how long would that have lasted us?
Not great, man.
And how stupid would we have been with it? And then, so it's no, I don't blame any of these guys. And the other part too, that we were fortunate enough not to have to the level of some of these young men. It kind of touches on what this is the first time that I'm going through, and I talk to these GMs and I get the reports and they're reading them from their databases, and almost all of them where if there's some kind of character concern, almost all of them have something in there, like dad spending the money at the casino, mom struggling with this, uncle he's got his hands out, agent in the pocket, cousins are hanging around. And so I said the other day, I was with Russillo and Daniel Jeremiah. We were talking about the Nico situation. And no one wants to hear this, but the players deserve to be paid. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
100%.
Right. So that's the jumping off point. B, they deserve to be paid as much as the market will allow. I do think there needs to be a cap on it for the preservation of college football for the long term, but I still think it should be a lot of money. But C, allow them to have to access a portion of it, but there should be worked in with every general manager now in college football and whoever's going to oversee all of this stuff eventually. There's got to be some kind of trust put in where they can't access some of it. And I know that goes against everything in America, but we're helping them. You know, like you can access 20% of it or whatever that number is, but you get it over time. So that when you're 25 years old and you're looking for a house and the football career didn't work out or whatever it is, there's got to be a way to help these young men out, because the first thing, like before you get in the league, you have meetings with financial advisors and they're trying to help you, you know, all those sorts of things. These guys are younger, less mature, and are being handed more money than a lot of the rookies in the NFL. And like, here, take it, whatever you want, you know?
Hey, Muench, I'll tell you what, if we were getting paid $800,000 back then, McShay and I would have gotten that goddamn dog we adopted some better training, I can promise.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, last question.
Was it Tatum? Was it Tatum?
Tate. Yeah, Tate. All right, so last question. Give Matt Davis a legitimate grade at tight end heading into the draft. Let's say that Jim Reed had a pass-happy offense, and Matt Davis was able to tap into the tools that got him offered a scholarship by John Cooper at Ohio State or George Perlis at Michigan State at the time. Where is Davis? Where's his grade?
Let's give him a 40 time. What do you guys think he would have ran?
Probably
Let's start there.
4.8,
Really?
I think that's high.
I think he would have ran a low 4.7s, high 4.6s. My guy can move.
Oh, you're just being a kiss ass.
Yeah, he is.
He's Jake Ferguson.
Yes.
He's running a 4.81, but he always gets open. He's catching every ball in traffic. He doesn't look the part of this great inline blocker, but he's going to block his ass off. He's going to get to the league as a 3rd, 4th round pick, and he's going to outplay where he's drafted. And you're going to be like, I don't understand why he's one of the most productive tight ends in the league this year, but he is, because he knows how to get open, does the little things, innate ability and feel for the game. He's Jake Ferguson.
Move over Marcus Dupree. We've got a new best that never was, Matt Davis. McShay and Muench, I truly love you guys. McShay, I'll never be able to thank you for all the doors you opened for me.
Oh, please.
No, it's the truth.
I'm thrilled to see what you're doing and how much you love it, and like your name popping up here and there, whether it's on Awful Announcing, talking about diet Dr. Pepper cream
soda, baby. Yeah.
But no, it's great to see, man.
No, you know I love it. The calling games is what I always wanted to do.
You were born to do. You were calling games. When you were 18 years old when we first met. We just no one but like 8 of us sitting around you were listening.
Practicing in the study hall, doing the Bill Walton impersonation.
Yeah, getting in trouble, not doing his work.
He's working on his social skills.
Let you go. Marissa is the greatest. Tell her I said
she's unbelievable.
Subscribe to the McShay Report and make sure you keep up with all their live coverage. On The Ringer, they're going to be at the studios, and you heard of all the live shows. Guys, I cannot thank you enough.
This has been awesome. We'll have to talk to you after the draft, bud.
You got it.